Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reinventing Mental Health, where we are moving beyond symptom management to find the actual root causes for mental health, as well as how we can fix it naturally. Today, we have with us my friend Daniel Brown. So, Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Thank you for having me on. My handle on Instagram is the not doc because I take pride in not being a doctor. No offense to any doctor listening or watching who actually does have correlated beliefs. But I think many people that would be listening to what you've got to share in the world would be maybe skeptical of a lot of mainstream medicine. So I think I want to kind of lean into that. So I am officially an amateur. I do not do this for a living, but I've spent the last decade leaning into what's part of my calling, which is to help people transform their health. I don't know why, maybe it's just why I was put here, but I just seem to have a knack for this stuff. So I am self-taught, self-practiced, but I've helped dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of people transform their health in some way, cure supposedly incurable diseases, beginning with myself. That's often the story. You take care of your own issue or somebody very close to you that leads you a path. And my specialist thing is not being a specialist. So there's always people smarter than me within nuanced topics. Like there's a nutrition guru who knows more than me. There's an exercise guru. There's a mental health guru that goes on and on and on. I might know more across all avenues of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health than anybody. And I say that with a relaxed confidence based on the fact, okay, I've not spoken to 8 billion people, but I've never come across anybody that has as broad a knowledge. Sometimes it helps me find someone's answers where nobody else can, because I can see how it all connects. Whilst health is super nuanced and detailed and complicated, I also think it's a lot simpler than people think as far as the big picture, and that's what feels important to me today.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I've seen you talking about in a lot of the different health groups where you and I overlap a bit is how everything, every illness or every symptom goes back to some very specific things. Yeah. So, what are these things that you keep talking about?
Well, yeah, my dramatic, mic drop thing is to say that with the rare exception, almost all illness, disease, and chronic pain has one or both, just two causes. There's just two causes of all of them. And how I got to that, and notice how I'm not going to answer what that is yet, because I'm just going to leave people wondering. How I got to that was a discovery over a number of years that if I was guiding myself or somebody else on how to cure or reverse or improve a thing, I realized that whatever it was, the list of things I would suggest were really similar. Oh, this person's got heartburn. Oh, this person's got anxiety. This person's got cancer, whatever it might be. The base stuff was always the same. And then I realized if somebody said to me, tell me how to prevent these things, how do I minimize my risk of whatever list of things, no matter how big or small. And again, I realized the list I gave them was basically the same. It's like, wait, if the way you prevent a thing is the same no matter what the thing is, or if the way you cure a thing is very similar no matter what the thing is, that means that all the things are just symptoms of something else, which is where I think we're so correlated, because I believe you say mental health is a symptom. It's not an illness in itself. It's something else is the cause. This is just the result. I believe the same thing. And I believe that the idea of diagnoses causes a lot of problems because it narrows people's thinking, puts them in a box. Words like I have, and then fill in the blank with an illness or a disease. Well, the unconscious can't discern the difference between a good instruction and a bad instruction. So when you say I have a thing, your unconscious goes, okay, you do. And it will do all it can to keep you in balance, which is to keep that thing as being true. So if you say, and I almost don't want to say it out loud, I don't want my unconscious to hear me, but you fill in a blank of a very ugly word, a scary word at the end of I have, your unconscious, its only job is to go, great, let's make sure that comes true then. So it's the last place to start. And I want to try and break away and bring people back to the basics. So the two things are either lifestyle or emotions. Lifestyle, emotions. And the lifestyle is very simple. It's nutrition. So it's food, liquid, supplements, everything that goes in that space. The second one is movement. That's my simple word for walking, building muscle, exercise, everything related to that. Fitness. And then the third bucket is living more naturally. So that's where it's about getting more sunlight, reducing artificial light, where it's about reducing artificial toxins and plastics and fragrances and so on, where it's being outdoors more, grounding, whatever. It all just falls into that let's be more natural bucket. Just as a tiny aside, because people often ask me, there isn't a fourth bucket for me called sleep. I think sleep is one of the most important things we can take care of. But largely, if you take care of those first three, you sleep well. If your nutrition's great and you're moving well and you take care of your general lifestyle, you're living more naturally, you tend to sleep well. I mean, you can throw in, okay, let's get some really dark curtains and make sure your room is cold and a couple of other things, but it's quite small. So I leave that as an aside. So that's one side is lifestyle. The other side is emotions, which I simplistically break into your conscious and your unconscious. So conscious is the conversations we have in our heads with the many voices. And if anyone thinks they've not got voices in their head, they scare me more. We all have voices. We all talk to ourselves, but what we tell ourselves can dramatically change our health, both physically and mentally. Unconscious and unconscious stuff is really intriguing because the word means we don't know it's happening. It's unconscious. So for example, I cured myself of a supposedly incurable, horrific autoimmune disease because I worked out that it was unconscious emotions that were manifesting physically. Once I took care of those emotions, the physical thing passed and I was cured in an instant. So that's how I break this all up.
So I have actually read recently and have been starting to look more into the fact that sometimes some of those unconscious things that are going on, they either happened to us in childhood, so we don't recall, the actual root of it, but also many of those things are being passed down to us by our parents and our grandparents. One of the articles I read said they think it can actually go back as far as 14 generations that trauma is being passed to us.
Yes. Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of research on that, and I've met a few people who have got some interesting potential trauma type stories that are actually their great grandparents that were in the Holocaust, for example, and that they now carry some of that. And whether it's actually stories passed down or whether it's actually being transferred on a sort of DNA genetic level, I kind of think it makes no difference. We could get caught up in trying to prove exactly how this happens. And that's where this, and I'll use the supposed word science because people use the word science like this is fact. And actually most science isn't fact. Most science is the best guess we've got right now. And we should be open to that being an even better guess tomorrow. But most science will get caught up in trying to prove, well, which one of those things it is. And pardon my language, but I don't really give a shit. It doesn't matter. The point is, there's definitely something in the idea that what happened to our past generations may influence our lives. If we can become aware of that and understand the stories, then maybe that can help us as well.
Absolutely. So one of the big topics, or the primary topic that we have for our conference coming up, is around perimenopause. So how do those buckets impact the presentation of perimenopause and why it's so different for different women?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when you first reached out to me and said, should we talk about this? And I said, it'd be a pleasure. I am not a woman, and yet I have a view because I've worked with enough women and I'm married and I have researched enough to understand that the nuance of any stage of menopause is not relevant until we've dealt with the base health things. So whether someone is male or female, or whether they are young, middle-aged, old, or whatever it might be, whatever phase in life, almost all of the base things that create like the foundation for health are almost completely the same. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now about just how different men and women are when it comes to a lot of health things. It's actually very small. There's some significant differences in certain hormones, and men go through a 24-hour pattern and women go through a 28-day pattern, for sure. But still, the base things that control our lives and whether we're happy or not, healthy or not, balanced and peaceful or not, are almost exclusively the same. And you think it through logically, where we've come from millions of years of evolution, there wasn't this conversation every day. Oh, well, you're a guy, so what you'll need to do today is, and you're a girl, what you'll need is this. We got food when we could get it. We got sunlight all day. We were indoors when it was dark. And once it went dark and the fire had run out, you all went to sleep. We followed base patterns and we follow them all the same. So I kind of almost want to pull away from and just pull it back to simplicity. So again, there's experts specifically in menopause that will have lots of nuanced stuff, but I will always come back to handle the basics first. So if you're not eating whole foods, and those whole foods being heavily animal-based, and we could have a conversation about veganism versus carnivore and everything in between if you want to, but you need to remove the processed foods, eat whole foods, eat largely animal. That's a base thing in nutrition. And then there's a few key supplements. You'll know probably from some of the conversations you've seen me have in a lot of text groups, I am not what people refer to as a biohacker. I'm forever trying to get everybody to biohack less. I have very few supplements. I think most people over-supplement thinking it's going to fill a gap, which it can't. Many supplements do more harm than good. I'm trying to pull it back and say, eat real food, and there's a few little nuanced extras. If you're not moving plenty every day, as a species, we probably would walk 20, 30,000 steps a day. I'm not saying you have to do that today, but if you walk 3,000 a day, it's probably going to be a problem. As a species, we had muscle, good, strong, lean muscle, because we had to carry things. We had to run after things or run away from things. So if we're not addressing that, why would we think we could be healthy without those basics? And then again, going to that living more naturally piece, I think one of the biggest health epidemics that most people don't know about is lack of sunlight and the damage that artificial light is doing. In fact, right here next to me, I've got my incandescent light bulb. I've got huge windows next to me. I could put on these blue block shades, which really I just wear because I think they make me look cool, but they genuinely help calm down some of the nasty artificial light. But where we've come from, we were outdoors in the daytime in the sun. In the evening, we would light a fire, which is very similar to the sun or an incandescent light. And once it was properly dark, there was moonlight and starlight, and that was it. So addressing these things, microplastics, fragrances, all that stuff, why try, and I know it can be contentious, and start thinking about the nuance of, I'm a 47-year-old woman and I'm going through this certain stage of. I don't care where you are, male, female, young, old, we've got to handle these base things before we get into the, okay, now we know that often a 47-year-old woman that's this far into that change in her life may benefit from a bit more of this and a bit less of that, and there's some really great nuance. But that great nuance won't do anything. That great nuance is like, what color shall I paint my roof? But I haven't built a foundation and walls of this house yet, so it's going to just collapse anyway. I'm just going to waste time and money and be disappointed. To get that foundation right. And by the way, I build houses, which is why I get to use all these fantastic analogies around home building. And that's the key. So those base things matter. And then the same story on the emotional side. Like if you are told that menopause will bring around this following list of problems in life, and we're told it over and over and over, it's a very fine line between being aware and prepared for something and actually creating that problem. If I believe I'm going to have the following problems, the odds rocket. Doesn't mean bury our heads in the sand, but it could be maybe the awareness of that's what many people experience, because most people's health is crap because they don't know what to eat and how to live and so on. Hey, but I do. Right. So if I'm looking after myself, a lot of that stuff might not be true. Even that change in self-talk, how the conscious feeds the unconscious with that self-talk could be enormous for somebody.
One of the big ones that I love is the light and the fact that we do need sunlight. We're spending far too many hours inside. This is true whether it's a child or an adult, but I specialize in children most of the time. So that's a huge conversation I'm always having with parents. Right now, as adults, what are some things that we need to know about the light bulbs and getting out into the sun and all of those things that you were just touching on?
Yeah, that was great. I believe, and I say this with my same point as before, which is almost all science is based on beliefs. But I believe that I can almost prove, because I believe I can't really prove anything, I can almost prove that actually the biggest cause of skin cancer is the last 50 years of seed oils, other processed foods, LED light, and fearing and staying away from sunlight. And that combination is actually the cause of skin cancer, but it's actually the cause of a host of other diseases. Skin cancer gets the headline because it's the one everyone thinks of, light, sun, cancer. And I think I can prove to you the opposite is true. But across all of health, we are a circadian species. I mean, we just are. And if you, I guess for somebody listening, not watching this, but my hands are wide apart, and I'm saying that light comes in a spectrum. We see a tiny sliver of that spectrum. All the rest of it we can't see. It's happening anyway. Just because I can't see it doesn't make it not true. I mean, This laptop right now is connected via Wi-Fi. There's no cables there, and yet here we are. So there's a lot that happens outside of what we can see. It's very easy to prove. Sunlight is in this wide spectrum. Fire is a very similar spectrum, and an incandescent light bulb is also in a very similar wide spectrum. We see part of it, but the rest of it is very similar to normal light. Modern LEDs, even the, let's call them healthier versions, which I'm a fan of, the healthier versions, are only in this very narrow band. Now, the worst is when the super bright white, like hospital operating theatre, white, blue, extreme. That part of light only exists in normal life right in the middle of the day. When do you have that light on the most and no other light? At night. Your phone, your laptop, your TV. So your brain gets a signal at 9 o'clock at night going, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Here it is, it's 1 o'clock. So let's forget releasing melatonin in the right way and preparing your serotonin and your cortisol to have it spike the next morning to wake you up at the correct time. Let's destroy all of that and wonder maybe why our health is screwed. And you can't out-eat, out-exercise, or outthink bad quality light. You have to address this thing. So people think about it maybe just with blue light and sleep. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But it's happening all day long. Now, I'm by Windows. The Windows, unfortunately, I'm going to get them changed one day, have that filter on that almost all Windows have. So I'm not getting the full UVA, UVB spectrum coming in. So a cute little hack I learned recently is this little incandescent bulb is on really low level. But that is giving the effect of like sunlight coming across here, and it's counteracting some of the crappy light that's coming off this very narrow band off my laptop right now. It costs peanuts. People say, well, you can't buy incandescent bulbs anymore. You can. Just go on Amazon. They're actually there. It's a lot harder to get, but they're absolutely there. It's very simple. Wearing blue blockers is a great thing because it will reduce the extremeness of this artificial white, blue, green that doesn't belong there, especially at night. The biggest thing you can do is sunlight all throughout the day. So the one that isn't contentious, it feels like anymore, is sunrise. It's like more and more people, no matter where they are on the health spectrum, no matter how mainstream, seems to be open to the idea that, hey, viewing the sunrise, maybe that's good. It absolutely is. It will wake you up faster. So your cortisol, which is meant to keep spiking and has a bad rap and that's wrong, it's meant to keep spiking through the morning, will do that better in the morning, gives you more energy, and then it'll bring it back down later in the day so you'll sleep better. But a lot of people stop there. You know, you can't make vitamin D first thing in the morning. You can't make it last in the evening. Now, we're in Austin, so we're blessed that we actually have a vitamin D window all year. But this time of year, in January, our vitamin D window is about 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if we want to make vitamin D, you've got to be out at 12, 1 o'clock. We're not making it outside of that window. If you're much further north, you're not making it at all right now. But there is something else that your body will do to deal with that. If you feel it's relevant, we can come back to it. But making vitamin D is vital. It's the only hormone we actually create in this way. It's that important to us. It's not actually a vitamin. Supplements, I'll be bold and say I don't believe they work. Actually, they do more harm than good, which I know is contentious in our space. I think there's a lot of evidence to show that vitamin D supplementation backfires, causes a whole bunch of problems. And taking magnesium and vitamin K is not what I'm talking about before anybody jumps in. It's a lot more nuanced and complex than that. So I'm not a fan of supplementation. But our bodies don't function without it, is this. If the sun is this burning fireball of evil out to get us, why does no life exist in the entire universe without it? And I just think simplistic logic should be allowed to flourish and say, maybe there's a clue there that it's not so bad for us. So what I believe in is sun throughout the day. I go out first thing, I go out mid-morning, I go out at lunch, I go out later in the afternoon, I try and catch the sunset. I drive the kids crazy. Been outside today. When have you been out? Have you been out again? You know, they're inside. They're on screens. Get outside over and over. And I swear you feel it. The more you do it, the more you enjoy it, you feel it. And you feel that on an emotional level. And, you know, I know what you do as far as mental health. Starting point, oh, you're inside all day. Okay, let's just get outside more. Maybe walk while you're doing it. That can transform people's lives. And it seems too simple and easy, but don't take a supplement when you could be doing that.
With kiddos, what I'm always telling parents is you need to get them out first thing. Like as soon as they wake up, you guys need to be outside. Yeah. A minimum of 30 minutes. I would love for every kid to be outside for an hour before they ever have to go back into a building. and then sit down for any period of time.
Yeah.
But like built into my day, every single day, I walk first thing in the morning, I walk after I eat lunch, and then I walk every evening after dinner. So making sure that I'm getting out into the sun and I'm moving my body and I'm getting at least 10,000 steps per day. Those are really important things.
I apologize to interrupt, but I think there's a bonus nuance here, or a bonus factor. So I'm with you. I'd love everyone outside for 30 minutes or an hour every day. A lot of people will say, I can't. I've got to get the kids to school. It's too busy. It's dark, whatever else. I say, okay, how many minutes per morning are your kids outside now? 0. Okay. What would it take to do 1 minute? Most people could do that, unless it's actually dark before they leave the house. Fair enough. That's a bit more challenging. But otherwise, okay, do 1 minute. So do 1 minute. And then you know what? Once you've done 1 minute, maybe we'll move to 2 minutes. Because my fear is that the optimal of an hour makes people go, that's just too hard, so I won't do anything. Oh, no. That's like I want to be like an Olympic athlete. I've never even been to the gym. Then just go to the gym. Just go on the treadmill and walk slowly for 10 minutes. Then you're somebody that goes to the gym. So turn your household into a household who goes outside every morning. After that, it actually gets a lot easier.
Yeah. And I tell them, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're going out and going for that walk that I really want you to go on. If you can just go outside and eat the breakfast that you're already eating.
Oh, yes.
That is a huge difference right there.
I love that. And if you can get your feet barefoot on the grass at the same time, even better.
Absolutely. I have a lot of adults that come to us and they're like, oh, my sleep is crap. What do I do about it? And we'll have those conversations. But then I'll say, you know what? If you don't feel like this right now is doable, because I do always get pushback from adults, then what I'm going to really tell you to do is I want you to go camping for a week and I want you to leave your phone at home.
Wow.
Normally the ones that were initially pushing back on getting outside in the morning will be like, maybe if I can't resolve this and figure out how to get outside.
Very good. I support this message.
Yep. We have a circadian rhythm and we are supposed to be rising with the sun and then going to sleep with the dark and the moon. We're not supposed to be up at, 1 o'clock in the morning, still playing video games and working.
Correct.
Yep.
And I think it's very easy to show the extreme dangers and the damage that it's causing.
Absolutely. And in brain mapping, like when we do a neurofeedback brain map, I can take a picture of what's happening inside of your sleep wave patterns. Some people will say, yeah, I knew my sleep was bad. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah. It's amazing the healing power of the sun. So you may see pictures sometimes, or black and white pictures of burn victims, especially like during World War II, and they'd be wheeled out on the hospital when hospitals used to have outdoor areas to be in the sun to heal it, which sounds counterintuitive. Happened to me a few weeks ago. I burnt myself on the grill badly enough. It was like, oh, I've really hurt myself there. And I kind of forgot, and I went to go and handle it, and I thought, hang on a minute. It was a bright, sunny, warm day. I got that part of my body directly in the sun for an hour. The burn vanished. Ooh, wow. That thing's good. Nature knows what it's doing.
Absolutely. And so you were talking about the fact that, seed oils are contributing to skin cancer. Not going into the sun is contributing to skin cancer. I think sunscreen itself is contributing to skin cancer.
Absolutely. If you need to use sunscreen, it should only be because you are choosing to be outside longer than you know is actually ideal. Because in the past, once you got too hot and felt your skin kicking a bit, you'd go back inside. So, we're choosing to be outside longer on vacation, and a hat and clothing isn't doing it. Purely zinc oxide should be the only active ingredient, fully mineral based, no fragrances other than a basic essential oil. If you really need it, great. I think I might have used it once this entire past year, because the rest of the time I just don't burn anyway, because my body's become so resistant. I can be out in the sun for hours without burning.
Yeah, our family has noticed that as well. Like we go out with other people and they're using sunscreen and getting burned, but we don't use any sunscreen at all. Yeah. And we can be out for hours on end.
And they're probably using sunglasses. They're probably wearing contact lenses. And that is a much bigger factor than people would like to believe.
I always tell people to go outside without sunglasses on, because when you put those sunglasses on, you're actually messing up the body's natural protective features that it has.
100%.
The sun hits the cone of the eye. It lets your brain know, I need to protect you from the sun. And here's my opportunity to create the vitamins that we need to be creating in the sunlight.
I agree. So be mindful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about incandescent bulbs. Are there other types of bulbs that people can be looking for? Like we actually have at night, we have red light bulbs that we have changed some of our lamps to.
Yeah, and we've done some of that. I've got all sorts of cool, soft, orangey
Mhm.
amber, zero flicker, warm, etc.
Mhm.
All those healthier LEDs are way better than a mainstream LED. So the more yellow, red, the lower Kelvin it is, flicker free, etc., all helps for
Mhm.
sure. But it's still knowing that's the breadth of light, my hands wide apart like that is sunlight. And even these healthier LEDs are still in this teeny tiny narrow band. Now, if you're outside a lot all day long, and this is just a little boost for your lighting at night, then you're
Mhm.
probably in a really good place. Easy changes to make, but the biggest win is the big glowing thing outside.
Okay, so one of the things that you were talking about was also toxins. What do you feel are some of the primary toxins that are currently impacting people today?
Sure. I mean, the one again that seems to get no argument is microplastics. And there's some
Mm.
scary data about how much they're finding in people's brains and reproductive organs and all sorts. It's far from ideal. It's relatively easy to significantly reduce your consumption. Now, by default, if you make most of your food at home and it's natural foods, you've removed a lot of the plastic straight away. If you're then mindful of what cookware and so on you're using, so whether it's the pans you're using or the glass you're drinking out of or the plates you're using, remove plastics or iffy, dodgy coatings, whatever it might be, from all of that. That's a massive improvement. I think the artificial fragrance is significant. And it's funny, a lot of
Mhm.
people that have kind of cleaned up their life become so acutely aware. You get in an Uber now and they've got one of those little tree things hanging there.
Oh,
You borderline want
yeah.
to leap out and say, I'll get another car, thank you very much, and charge me for the cancellation. Because the cleaner you get, the less tolerant you are of that crap.
Mhm.
It's awful, but it's in everything. So there's so many, whether it be your bath products, shower products,
Mhm.
makeups, fragrances, deodorant, all the stuff, the cleaning products for your house, all of it's full of these fragrances. And if you
Mhm.
just see the word fragrance or parfum on anything, and there's not a specific of, it's a natural essential oil, it's bad
Mhm.
stuff. Bleach, antiseptic, etc., nasty stuff. And then just in your air in general. So I pay particular attention to this because, again, I'm building houses and building healthier houses.
Mhm.
Mold is significant. Having a good AC system that's actually cleaning and clearing the air out, bringing fresh air into your house, because there's
Mhm.
so many just general toxins in the world. Fresh air is so underplayed in our
Oh yeah.
houses. It's really, really important. When you're cooking, it's an interesting one because if you're cooking with gas, there's a bunch of off-gassing from the gas on your stove that's
Mhm.
getting in, you're breathing that in. So really powerful extractor on full pelt is an important thing, and fresh air as well. And just being aware that that's not ideal.
Mhm.
Out of my 14 meals a week, I probably cook 12 of them outside anyway. And that's not the primary reason, but it's a realization recently is that's a great bonus. I'm not pulling it in as heavily. Toxins are everywhere. What's beautiful is there's a big movement towards cleaning all this up. And
Absolutely.
I believe you can actually, for almost no cost, make the switch. So it used to be, my $10 thing has to be $30 to go clean. And I need to decide whether I can afford that or not. Now the $10 thing, there's a $10 alternative or maybe 12.
Mhm.
You can
Yeah.
make a switch without spending a fortune, and I think it's very important. And maybe each of these things in isolation is so teeny tiny it doesn't matter, but we're compounding them. If there's 100 of these little things every day, down
Mhm.
the line after years, it's a real issue.
Yeah. And the skin is your number one largest organ. So everything that you put on it, you are absorbing.
Yeah.
And, that is a conversation we have frequently in our office because I have people who come into my office and I can smell all of the perfumes that they have on. And
100%.
then they're talking to me about being depressed and they're anxious. And okay, well, what do you have on right now as far as these smells that I have? Because it irritates me as soon as they walk in.
Yeah.
That lotion that you're putting on from the famous bath stores in all of the malls, probably not the one that we want to be
Mm-mm.
using right
Not at all.
now.
Not at all. I'm fully with you. So yeah, so there's a lot more in toxins, but that's a feel for it. And
Yep.
an important thing that I'm a big believer in, again, through my own journey,
Mhm.
is depending how you choose to hear all this, it could sound like you have to be obsessed. Now, obsession
Mhm.
is dangerous. So I discovered obsession in my health, in myself, in my health. I used to wear it like a badge of honor. I would actually say to people with a big smile and pride, I'm obsessed by health. And I thought it was a really good thing. Look how cool I am with my big health obsession badge. And I woke up to it about 4 years ago when I thought, I think obsession is another word for addiction. It's just a very similar thing. And I don't think it's a good thing because I've got no give, then. There's no flexibility. No, everything could turn into a worry or a problem. So I spent about 6 months changing that belief. I worked really, really hard at changing myself to being someone that's passionate about health because I don't see a downside to passion. And I can be passionate about health, but still choose to do a thing that isn't a perfect fit for the obsessive perfect person. But in being emotionally relaxed about it, that probably boosts my health a lot more than worrying about it via obsession. Now, ironically, I think I actually do even more for my health since becoming less obsessed and more passionate about it. By not trying quite so hard, I've actually got an even better result, which I find kind of intriguing. I think that's a really important thing.
Well, certainly stress and like the release inside of your body from stress and what it would be doing. When we can get rid of that, we absolutely can feel better.
Yeah, very much.
Everything compounds.
Agreed.
Okay, so your pillars were
nutrition. Within lifestyle, it's nutrition, movement, and living more naturally. So I guess we didn't talk much about movement. You mentioned walking 10,000 steps. I also love that. And I know before anybody says it, there's no science around the 10,000 steps thing. It was a marketing campaign in Japan about 40 years ago because they knew that 10,000 was catchy. But guess what? It seems to work really well. And again, we can get caught up in the science. Do I only need to do 7,000 or should I do 12? How many steps are you walking now? 2,000. Great. Start walking 3,000.
Yep.
Let's not worry about, okay, am I walking too much? Very, very hard to do. I actually average about 14,000 steps a day. I feel great on 10,000 plus. I keep an eye on it. I don't obsess over it. Sometimes I walk a lot more. To help me get there, I have a lovely stacking approach. I love Atomic Habits. It's a wonderful book. And he talks a lot about stacking, where you can stack one habit on top of another. So multiple times a day, I take meetings outside walking, whether it's in person or on Zoom. I stack all of it. So I'm outside barefoot and I'm grounding. Usually with my shirt off, unless it's like not an appropriate one to do that on a Zoom with or whatever. But I'm getting as much of my skin in the sun as I can. I'm getting fresh air. I'm seeing nature. I'm seeing trees. And there's a lot of good science to back up why that's good for us. I am getting my steps in, breaking up even just the stable thing of just being sat too long directly in front of a computer. I'm moving away from the artificial light. It's like it all builds up. The artificial light from my phone does me zero harm if I'm outside in the sun at the same time. So no problem whatsoever. The sun just completely overpowers that. So I stack all these things because people sometimes say to me, how would you squeeze it all in? Well, it just takes a bit of strategicness of how important this is and taking the time to think through how I layer that steps.
Like during my different walks, like the morning I start with, I'll have my earbuds out for most of the walk, but there are parts of the walk where I will do my Bible reading for the morning. That's really important for me, but I have an audio Bible that can help me get that part of my day in. But I also want to hear the nature in the morning because the sound of the birds is really, really important for our nervous system. And there's that frequency that helps you to wake up. And then in the afternoon, I may be doing this like a self-help book while I'm walking if I'm not doing a meeting.
That's lovely.
Gonna be outside.
Do you leave the phone behind at all?
I do from time to time. It is my tracker. So my health device is attached to it. So I'm not necessarily looking at it. It's in a pocket or hidden away. So I'm not seeing it while I'm walking, but it is on me.
So I've had initially it was fight with. So I was going to say I've been having a battle with or a fight with, but I know again, that's not healthy. So now I'm just having a peaceful conversation with my phone habits. And so my phone had to be with me all the time, not even for I want to be on Instagram or contactable because I had to track my steps. So now I've got one of these, a $9 crappy step counter, which funnily enough is more accurate than my iPhone from Amazon. But every 3 months, it either just stops working or I hear it splash into a toilet. But for $9 every 3 months, it's fine. I can live with that. Yep. So that was one way. And I'm really trying to lean into this idea. People talk about embracing boredom. I'm not sure I like that because I think that the word boredom we've been programmed to believe is a negative thing. So rather than trying to convince ourselves that boredom's not negative, I think just pick a different word. So whatever a more positive word, quiet, calmness, peacefulness, mindfulness, whatever, pick one of those. So again, I've been fighting like, oh, but I want to go for a walk. But if I go for a walk without my phone, I have some of my best ideas. Clever me, I bought a $3 miniature notebook that's smaller than my phone and a mini pen, which goes in my pocket. And I've got that in one pocket, I've got my step counter in the other, and I've given myself permission to go for a walk sometimes without a phone. And it's like, oh, wow, isn't this amazing? But I'm actually really proud of that step. And as you say, I hear the birds and I hear nature, and I'm not distracted, I'm not tempted. Because sometimes it's like, oh, next thing I know, I've just been walking on Instagram for 5 minutes. What the hell? But it's taken a mindful decision to do something about that.
Definitely. Yes. Our neighborhood is really nice in that in the central part of our neighborhood, there's this big pond area. I love going out there and just looking at the turtles and the cranes that are out there. They're so pretty. There is one section too that I've noticed under one of there's like a little bridge that goes over the end of one of the ponds. There's some type of snake that's over there. And it looks like there's a burrow in there. I don't think it's a dangerous snake. I could be chasing it, but I like going too and just looking and watching the snake because he's going through the water and then he's climbing up the side and then he goes back down and just enjoying those moments.
That's great. So the other bit within movement is, it doesn't have to be walking, but walking is the base human movement. Again, if I think about where we've come from, we walked for thousands of steps every day.
Yep.
We would walk to go and find food, and we would walk back with food, extreme distances. Then the other thing we would do is explosively sprint, because either a saber-toothed tiger's jumping out and going to eat us, or a mammoth has run across the savannah and I want to chase after it because that's my dinner. So explosive sprint is actually, I think, the most core, powerful human movement after walking. And then building muscle in general, because if you then kill that animal and have to carry it back, you might be carrying a 100-pound leg of an animal back to your tribe. And being able to do that requires muscle, or would build muscle, and therefore it's a self-fulfilling thing. So we need to walk. We need to do something very high intensity, but not these crazy long high intensity workouts, because you wouldn't sprint and then sprint again. You either sprinted and got your animal or you didn't. You sprinted and got away or it ate you. We're designed for like one of these explosive moments. And I think there's a bit of a cult thing around high intensity, like really proving that how grrr I am. And I see a lot of injury and I see a lot of damage to heart as well by pushing it too far. But heavy lifting, I think, is really important. Heavy lifting done slowly, male, female. This is, again, it makes no difference. Yeah. And there's a nuance that people might talk about. You'll often see it on podcasts. Women have a much smaller glycogen store. So women might need extra food for fuel when working out. No, they do only if they're doing ultra high intensity training for an extended period of longer than I think a human should be doing anyway. One super sprint, everybody has that store, no problem. Sprint and then breathe and sprint again and sprint again and sprint again. Okay, guys can actually keep doing that for longer. Girls can't. Okay, but maybe we shouldn't be doing it anyway. Maybe that's the clue. Because again, if we're out on the savannah hunting, did we have our sports gel in our pocket ready to go? Probably not. So let's only separate if it actually makes sense to separate male and female.
Well, so for me, I have a constant glucose monitor because I've been playing around and trying to figure out like what's causing glucose spikes throughout the course of my day. And I actually found out glucose was actually causing me to wake up in the middle of the night. So I had to get a handle on that and figure out what were the foods that I was eating that were causing that. But I find that if I do too high intensity of exercise, my sugar spikes.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And it can be weird things connected to cortisol and that overstress response. Yep. And cortisol isn't a bad thing. It's a current trend to call it a bad thing. Cortisol is vital. You'd be dead without it. But it's supposed to spike in certain ways at certain times and come back in certain ways. And I think we can screw that up with certain ultra high intensity. I'm all for, I exercise hard, I exercise a lot and I love it. But I'm always trying to find that balance between I should feel better and better and better. If I'm sort of better yet worse and injured a lot and always uncomfortable, there's a clue that something's off.
I think everybody needs to listen to their bodies because we are all so individual. What works for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for the 25-year-olds, that's next to me.
I will say this is a challenging one because I'm a big fan of opposing views. I believe in listening to my body, and I also believe that my programming, like most people, will probably tell me that I'm weaker than I really am. The world around us has been teaching us for the last 50 to 100 years that we're actually a very weak species in constant need of care and attention through medications and procedures and specialists and so on. And I think we're a lot tougher than we think we are.
Oh, absolutely.
If I just, with reckless abandon, start trying to do things I shouldn't do and hurt myself, that's really silly. But if I can believe that maybe I'm capable of a lot more, maybe I'm much more resilient than I think I am, maybe I am this strong, flexible species, I can probably move the bar significantly and go further as well. So it's this interesting potential dance between listening to myself, but knowing that my programming might have misinformed what I'm listening to. So I need to play with both.
So I think I'm probably one of those lucky people because I was always told I can do whatever I put my mind to.
Ooh.
So I don't have that limiting belief. If I decide that I'm going to do it and I want to do it, it's just going to happen.
I love that. Everybody needs to pull a bit of that from you.
Yep. That was definitely a positive of our upbringing, as my parents had 6 girls. We were all told your gender doesn't stop you from doing something. You can do anything you put your mind to. If you want to, I was the one that was out snowmobiling and dirt biking and 4-wheeling and chasing the boys around.
Love it.
Okay. I know that we're coming up on that 45-minute mark that we had talked about.
Yeah, but there's this whole emotions bit that we haven't really hit.
So let's dive into that a little bit.
So if we take these 2 big buckets, the cause of almost all disease, illness, and chronic pain is either lifestyle or emotions. So let's jump over to emotions. This comes through my own experience. I was doing all the right things, so to speak, in quotation marks: nutrition, awesome, exercise, sunlight, the whole shebang, and kept having some major incidences. I nearly died twice. Got a couple of those stories. They were a bit of a wake up, like, wait, that's not supposed to happen to me. And then the imposter syndrome kicked in of, do I really know as much as I think I do? Maybe I don't. Maybe I've got this stuff wrong. I'm like, no, I actually don't think that's it. I think there's something I'm missing. And then I developed an autoimmune disease called complex regional pain syndrome. Very few people have heard of it, CRPS. It is quite darkly known in the CRPS community as the suicide disease, because that's how bad this thing actually is. And I developed it, and I knew it because my daughter used to have it. Here's the interesting thing. Apparently, no one knows what causes it, and apparently it's incurable. I think I know exactly what causes it, and my daughter and I don't have it anymore. And we cured ourselves in 2 completely different ways. So we've independently cured the incurable. My story is the most relevant one here. I started to read a book by a guy called John Sarno. People may know him. He was very famous in the 70s and 80s. He was a neck and back surgeon who started to notice interesting patterns that for all the patients that come in with the prolapse herniated disc or whatever else, who would operate on and they'd go away, get better, but then get worse, which confused him. There were also plenty of people that come in with the same pain and no visible issue. Then those other people, he realized, walking around in public with this herniated disc and no pain whatsoever. Yeah. And he just started to see, like, something's wrong here. This isn't adding up. And he noticed a pattern with his patients. They were very type A most of the time. And he did something doctors never normally do. He spoke to them. And he had conversations with these people. And he started to discover they commonly carried some kind of trauma from childhood. And it doesn't have to be, and I don't like this term, I'm going to use it to make a point right now. It doesn't have to be what people call big T trauma, like the thing you might read in the newspaper of, oh my God, I can't believe this awful thing happened to somebody. But any kind of trauma, because all trauma is, it's our interpretation of that thing in that moment. Yep. So my dad says something to me when I'm 4 years old and I take it in a certain way that it seems minor and innocuous, but it could transform how my entire next 100 years of my life is because of how I saw that thing and in that moment. And it's probably in my unconscious, as we said at the beginning, so I don't even know it's happening. And it could be traumatic. So what he realized that was really commonplace, and he started talking to people about that trauma. And then people started to get better. He wasn't a therapist. He didn't even go through, let's now spend 50 minutes every week for the rest of your life in therapy to help you get better and deal with that thing. Mm-hmm. Just the conversations around it, and people just healed. And the theory, in my words, is as simple as this. We've all got this buried stuff. And sometimes these buried emotions start to bubble up and our brain goes, oh, F no. He will not be able to cope with the pain of that thing. So I have to distract him. So I will distract him with something physical instead, a physical pain. Then he discovered actually it's not even just pain, it can be disease and illness. So I'm looking at me with CRPS at this particular time and no good reason why I should have this thing. And I've looked at everything else and I'm trying to piece it all together. And I'm reading this book. It's called The Mind-Body Prescription. And there's been lots of other stuff along these lines. So a lot of people nowadays know Joe Dispenza or Gabor Mate, or I've forgotten his name, the guy that wrote The Body Keeps the Score. So new resurgence in a lot of this kind of stuff. People are becoming aware of it. It's the same stuff. It's variations on the same theme. So I'm reading this book about the mind-body prescription, and he actually mentions halfway, and he mentions complex regional pain syndrome, this really rare thing. I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. And I sat there and thought, it's the only thing that's left that makes sense. I'm eating great, and I'm living great, and I'm doing all the shit, and everything's freaking awesome, and I should be really healthy, yet this thing has happened. I generally don't really believe in genetically passing on many illnesses and diseases and so on. I think that's unbelievably rare. Genes are hardly ever a factor. Genes may predispose somebody who isn't living in the right way to end up with a certain symptom. If you live like shit, oh, well, your family all had cancer, then you're more likely to. Oh, well, your family all had heart disease, that's more likely to be your thing. They're just different symptoms of the same problems. They come out in different ways, but they're being caused by the same issues, taking us back to the beginning. And I'm like, I'm doing all the stuff. This is the only thing that's left, is it's coming from my emotions. Well, what if that was true? So my version of CRPS was this acute pain, acute chronic pain. It's officially registered as the worst pain the human can experience. They say it's more painful than childbirth. And most people, when they have it in a part of their body 24/7. Now, I was lucky because I had it in my ankle and it would come and go. It would disappear for 3 weeks and come back for a few days and come and go. So as I'm reading this book, a week or two after my last attack of this thing, so my foot's a bit stiff, but outside of that, I carry on with life and just hope for the best. So I'm thinking, this makes sense. I'm going to go to the gym. And I've got a little gym in my garage. So I think I'll just take it easy. As I'm walking to my gym, I thought, now hang on. If I just take it easy, that's me telling my brain I don't really believe that this could actually be an emotional thing. So it won't work. Okay, F it, I said out loud. I'm just going to go for it. So I go in my gym and I start lifting the heaviest stuff I can lift. Really leg focused, but all this weight on my ankle. And I start working out. 5 minutes in, get this twinge in my ankle. Now for a year, that twinge meant I had 3 or 4 minutes to get to my sofa, which is where I'd be for the next 2 days, literally crying in agony. And I looked at the mirror and back at my ankle, and I just said, F off, and it went away. It's like, okay, and I'm grinning, I carry on working out, I'm pushing the legs, 5 more minutes, it did it again. And I looked straight down at my ankle and I said, I really am okay, thank you. And that's now 3 years ago, I've never had it since.
Wow.
Now that should be impossible. Or I'm a freak N of one, okay. But how have I now had conversations like this with multiple other people and they've now cured their incurable things? I had a friend who was gonna have his entire shoulder replaced. I had him read a couple of books, listen to a podcast, and we had some conversations. His shoulder is now fine. It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. Our unconscious thinks it's trying to protect us, thinks it's doing us a favor, but it gets it wrong. We've evolved really fast, and I think a lot of our ancient mammalian brain hasn't caught up yet, and this is some of that leftover stuff that might not be a problem in another million years of our evolution, but right now, we're a bit out of sync. Also, self-talk is enormous, which is again influencing. So the other thing that happens for many people, as mentioned earlier, is the things that they tell themselves. So if I tell myself I'm a sick person that's going to be sick or whatever else it might be, or I'm not deserving or I'm not safe, my brain will hear that message, follow the instruction, do all it can to make what I believe to be true come true. And that can result in a lot of illness and pain as well. So it's dramatic, but the number of times physical things are actually emotionally caused and vice versa, it's astounding. What you do when you, and I believe this for a long time before this experience was, oh, mental health, it's so much from the physical. Get outside in the sun, remove those toxic deodorants and whatever else, eat some healthy food and go for a walk, and suddenly you don't have anxiety or depression or ADHD or whatever else it might be anymore. How interesting. I'm still saying it's also the other way around. The emotions and the thoughts change the physical. So it's one big thing. And should we be surprised? We are one being. It's one species. It's all going on in one place. We can't separate. And that's the bit where I'd love to help. So many amazing practitioners in our space are very, very narrow, because nearly everybody is, and they believe their thing is the thing. And I think their thing is never the thing. All the things are the thing. And I want to try and help pull all that together.
Yeah, I find that very important. You know, I have somebody that comes into my office and I listen to them, and I'm not always the one that's going to be the person that actually fixes this. I may send them to somebody else in my network that I think is going to be doing this better, because what each individual person needs may not actually be what it is I specialize in. And that's totally okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big thing to say out loud. And if we could get a lot more people thinking that way, amazing.
I have to say that I am surrounded by a lot of people in my area that think and feel that same way.
Good.
Because they know that I'm going to send somebody to them that they're going to be able to work with. And then when they come across somebody that they're positive they can't handle, but they think I can, they're going to send them my way. And I think that more and more practitioners need to really be looking at things from a much broader perspective. I don't know everything about everything. There's no chance I can know everything about everything. And I specialize in very, very particular things. If somebody comes to my office and what they're talking to me about has nothing to do with what I know about, it's not even ethical for me to continue.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if there was one big takeaway that you could give to people today, especially since we're focused largely on women with perimenopause right now,
Let's bring
what
it back
would you
to
tell
that.
them?
Let go of the diagnosis and take care of the basics. So whatever diagnosis you've been given is not even necessarily correct, and hanging on to it is doing you harm. If you don't feel as well as you'd like to, if your labs aren't as good as they should be, if you just don't feel truly optimal in all the ways that you decide what optimal is, take care of the basics. So eat real food, supplement carefully, drink clean water, get moving, build muscle, get sunlight, minimize the artificial, reduce the toxins, and take care of, I'm pointing to here and here, my head and my heart, that whole emotional piece. Take care of it. Be really mindful of the things you tell yourself, and be mindful of the fact that you've got all sorts of programming, especially from childhood, which could be affecting you now, but none of it is fixed. You learnt it once, you can learn something else. If you take care of those basics, 9 times out of 10, you just get to where you want to get to anyway. And if there's some leftover, then we can get into the nuance and the detail. That'd be my big takeaway.
Okay. So I actually have talked to a number of women that are in their late 50s and early 60s, and just by correcting those things, they're having cycles again.
Wow.
I was astounded. So happy to hear that for them, because they feel like a normal person, they said.
Marvelous. Very good.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody that is joining us for the NeuroShift conference, and also for all of our viewers on Reinventing Mental Health. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and follow so you know when the next conference or the next podcast video are available. And thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us today.
Thank you.